Central banks around the world are engaging in extremely dangerous policies, never done before. Uncharted territory. The repercussions of these actions will cause unforeseen events. Governments and ultimately taxpayers will be on the hook for the manipulation backlash. You came here for the truth, so let me unveil that for you. Today we are going to look at a few charts. I want to begin with one that is so convincing to me, and I wanted to bring that to you to show you this manipulation. Here it is. The G3 central bank balance sheet and the big 5 tech stocks. There is a complete and direct and obvious correlation between these two. I've shown you various charts before over the years that correlate the bank's balance sheet and the stock market. This one is very specific. When you see the big 5 tech stocks trading at almost identical to the G3 central banks. Look at the way, especially in recent times, how accurate it has been. I mean, this is so telling to me. And why? Is it just coincidence? Well, we know. We have all of the documentation. I've brought it to you here on the channel, where you see the central banks around the world either publicly admitting or seeing the data itself that they are given incentives to buy specific assets. Central banks, they print up the money, they get incentives to buy up different assets, and then we see them publicly admitting that they are supporting the stock market, the bond market, and everything else. It's a fact. We know that. We don't see every one of their transactions, and it's not made public, but you just start piecing everything together and you'll figure it out. It's not too hard. Look at this. US stocks and the G3 central bank balance sheet. It's basically the same situation. Sure, it's not exact, but come on, look at this. This is since the financial crisis until today. Look, the Federal Reserve may have stopped, or at least they claim to have stopped printing money. And so they say they want to wind back on the balance sheet. But just look at the G3 and you'll see what's happened. They don't all have to simultaneously print. The money will make its way around, I assure you. And this is just such a telling example of exactly what I have been trying to say for years. Now, where's the collapse? Where is it? Well, the market already collapsed. It's that the central banks are there to support it. If you remove that crutch, this will all come tumbling down. Now, many people feel that they can simply just ride the wave. And I think it's just such a dangerous policy, not to mention the fact that many of these corporations which have risen are part of what I will call the enemy forces. So that's up to you. Central bank balance sheet relative to GDP. And of course, they're making the claim about where it's heading. I don't know exactly, but just look at what has happened. First of all, the Bank of Japan and the Fed, essentially both doing the same thing, printing money around the same times. Things have changed in more recent times. But regardless, you know, the way I see it is a simple matter of fact. GDP is fake to begin with. Then when we start looking at this, we realize, okay, the central banks they have gone haywire, and it is simply getting worse. Central bank balance sheet. The reason I wanted to show you this one was, okay, the Federal Reserve may have stopped with their bond buying, perhaps. But when you look at it on average, you're seeing something that's pretty obvious, and that's, as a whole, they're printing a lot of money. I assure you, there's no shortage of that. The G3 central bank balance sheet here. Look at this. So-called end of QE3. So everyone's saying, oh, look, the central banks have stopped printing and the economy globally is being restored. Everything is more sound. That was back in 2014. But again, you look at the G3 as a whole and you see one thing's very clear. More money printing. Because the Federal Reserve isn't doing it, they have to come in and put their fair share. So that's just the way I see it. I hope you do too. This is like a carcass that's sitting there and you're just pumping blood in through one side. I mean, it's dead. It's dead. It's not coming back. Something has to happen. Something has to give. And I'm not even saying that the market's going to crash tomorrow or anything. I ultimately see, in the end, a hyperinflation. That's the way I see it. And people simply want to be in assets versus digital garbage fiat. And I get that. I'm just very worried about what's happening, because slowly but surely it seems that all the central banks around the world are owning everything, and that to me is not a very good thing. I'm worried about that. If you found this video informative, please give me a thumbs up. And last but not least, if you found the video informative, I know you will find my books, The Money GPS and my new release, Global Economic Collapse, even more informative. The first book is about the 4 asset classes and how to profit from them. And my new book gets into a lot more of the self-sufficiency and reducing your monthly expenses and earning income and all that. So it is quite different in the books, although they do cover some of the same topics. And if you want to check out the audiobook for Global Economic Collapse, for those who are too busy and those who aren't interested in reading, I did the audiobook version too, so you can get that at themoneygps.com. And much more. Check out themoneygps.com for some more info. Take care.